Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am Smitty. Still no Tyler for you guys this week. Hoping he's back next week. I really don't want to do this 3 straight weeks, guys. With me, same as last week, is Eddie Provident. However, no Danny Shirey this week. It's going to be, not that Danny didn't do a great job of talking football with us, but I'm saving a lot of hockey talk for next week post-trade deadline. But today, going to be very football heavy. Eddie, what's going on?
Not much, man. Not much. A lot of football to talk about, dude. From the last time you and I talked on camera, a lot has happened in the NFL.
Yeah, a lot of that quarterback conversation just became null and void.
Exactly. And the comment section was pretty funny because literally we record. So for those of you who don't know, I know you said you don't want to give this away, but for those of you who don't know, we normally record the podcasts like the night before so that they can get edited and posted to YouTube. We try to wait as long as we can so that they're as relevant as possible. But by about 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, it was completely a waste of a podcast when it comes to the football.
Yeah, at least that Steelers talk, because most of it was about the quarterback position.
Yep.
So,
yep.
If you were somebody that was
right, glad that I was right about Mason Rudolph starting. By the way,
if you're somebody that listens to the show then maybe you did get your fix in before that news came out. If you're somebody that watches on YouTube and we're waiting for the YouTube video to premiere at 8 p.m., that throw it out the window. At least that Steelers talk, which, like I said, was a big portion of the show. We're going to talk a lot about the Steelers and all the free agency signings. Don't want to get into that yet, though. We talked a little bit about it last week with baseball being back. Really, the big thing here, the Pirates might be like fun to watch, at least in spring training, with some of these guys that are probably going to start out in AAA. I think a lot of people are going to be pounding the table for O'Neal Cruz to start in the majors. However, as DK has said, as Alex has said down in Bradenton covering the team, the sense that they get is that's not going to be the case. Yeah. He only was in Indy for 6 games last year before they gave him that cup of coffee in the majors to kind of reward him. So I think that the assumption is he's going to be in AAA. Same with Contreras, and those are 2 guys that you really want to see in spring training. So like I said, it's going to be a fun team to watch in spring training. That's not going to translate to on-field results when the Pirates roll around, at least right away. But at least like here early in the portion of spring training, it's been cool to see what's going on down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first few spring training games, again, you have to take it for what it's worth. All it is a couple of spring training games. But I do think that there's some reason to be optimistic when you look at the way that O'Neal Cruz is playing, when you look at the way Cole Tucker's swing looks. He looks like a different baseball player right now, man. I'm really excited to see, Cole Tucker and what he can bring to the table.
Into that until I see it.
I know. You got to see it for real. But I'm excited to see, because he had, towards the end of the season last year, he had some pretty big games. He had that one monster game where he had like 2 or 3 amazing catches, home run. I mean, he really, really looked like he figured something out. So I'm excited to see him. I'm also excited to see what they do with the pitching, because all offseason on Instagram, Mitch Keller was the superstar. Mitch Keller, everything that we saw on those Instagram posts and all that kind of stuff. And from what I've heard from DK, what I've heard from Alex, and what I've heard from Jason Mackey and a bunch of other people, Mitch Keller looks like he did figure it out. Now, he took that line drive. Yeah, he took that line drive in his first start of spring training. And Derek Shelton said they shut him down. They didn't even think about it. They didn't even think twice about it because it was early. And I think that was the right call. So we still have yet to see him really put a lot of work in spring training. But the bullpen sessions, he's looked really good. And I'm excited about that. Roansy Contreras looked really good against the was it the Tigers they played on Sunday? Blue Jays. Sorry, yeah. Looked really good against the Blue Jays. He was 4 or 5 pitches and above 99. So, I think there's some reason to be cautiously optimistic as Pirates fans.
Yeah, that uptick in velocity is really what you're looking for with Mitch Keller. DK's talked about it a lot. Hitting triple digits. He was hitting 100 miles per hour in those videos. And they're circulating, and people are starting to wonder, is Mitch Keller figuring it out? And the only thing that I'll say to that is I'm kind of viewing him the same way as a pitcher that I'm viewing Cole Tucker as a hitter. Sure. The rumors of that being the case, the early signs of that being the case. Okay, that's fine. Let's see it, put to work, put to action when the games do really mean something. But
no, I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to be, with this whole team, it's fair to be skeptical. with the whole organization, really. But I'm trying to look at it a little bit of a glass half full, where they do have some talent in the system, and whether it's going to come up, this season or the season, next season or what, we don't know. But I do think that we're seeing some of these guys that we've heard about for a while in the minors, and we're getting to see what they actually do have to offer. So that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. It's also a very exciting time of year for Penguin fans, hockey fans in general, with the trade deadline. By the time that you listen to this or watch this, it may have already passed. Like I said, next week, we're going to be talking a lot about that on the show. Yep. But I don't know if the Pens are going to or will have made a move by this point, but I think that it's interesting because on Sunday you start to see some action. Actually, Saturday, like Claude Giroux going to the Panthers. I thought that was going to start a flurry of things, like early trades before the deadline rolled around. But the one thing that I want to point out, Penguin fans and Canucks fans have kind of been like watching each other's teams, right? As the scouts are watching the teams as well. The Canucks offload Travis Hamonic to Ottawa, which by the way was a weird trade.
And Ottawa gave up a pick in that trade,
third round pick.
What are they doing?
But so I think all of a sudden you're looking at, and then Friedman for the Penguins signs a 2-year extension.
2-year deal.
So I'm not saying
I think that's the writing on the wall for either Marino or Pettersson. What Danny was talking about last week. I think it's the writing on the wall for one of the two of those guys.
Yeah, and I definitely think that there's the case to be made that is. I think that like on the reverse side of that, you could just say, okay, why not? It's kind of like the same thing that they've done with Chad Ruhwedel in the past when he was the seventh defenseman. Now Friedman's in that role, at least as of right now. So, but 2 years as opposed to 1 year is a little bit different story, like it was with Ruhwedel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of in that same camp though because of Vancouver opening up a defensive spot, like I said, with moving out Hamonic.
Yeah.
And then the Penguins signed Friedman to a 2-year extension. It's just like, okay, these two teams have been talking for a bit. The Penguins would be offloading a defenseman in this proposed trade.
So
Vancouver just got rid of a defenseman.
Now the three names from Vancouver that we're hearing are Connor Garland, Brock Besser, and there was a third, JT Miller. I know DK's been pounding the table for JT Miller. He's the local guy. He does have a lot of scoring pop. Danny last week was really on the Connor Garland train, which happens to be where I'm at as well. I'd love to see Connor Garland in Pittsburgh. I can also see. I think Brock Besser is going to probably cost too much just because of the name, and he's the captain, and the upside on him I think is probably a little higher than the other two guys, but he's also I think his floor is a little lower than those guys too. So Connor Garland for me is still the guy. What do you think?
Same. I've been of that camp for a while. It's weird that Brock Besser is actually of the three the least that I want. Not just I do think that like pedigree wise he has the highest ceiling, but all of his production really is coming on the power play this year, and that scares me because I'm not so sure is he even a guy that would play on this first power play unit.
Who are you taking off? Who are you taking off the first power play unit for Brock Besser?
Yeah,
I'm not taking any of them off.
That's where I'm at with that. And it's like, okay, maybe his 5-on-5 production would see a jump, playing next to an Evgeny Malkin and Danton Heinen with his playmaking ability. But I'm not banking on that. And for a guy that relies solely on his shot, which is a really good shot, and I think the Penguins need that scoring, I would rather have a guy that drives play and finds different ways to score 5-on-5, like a Connor Garland, who can maybe still impact your second power play unit if you put him on it, but doesn't, rely solely on that for his production. So right now, the way that I'd rank those three is Garland, Miller, Besser.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. I think Miller has more to offer this team than Besser does. And then the only other thing that I've seen online but I don't understand how it would work. I saw a rumor that the Penguins that the Oilers were looking at and interested in Kasperi Kapanen.
Yeah.
The Penguins would have to retain salary for that to work. And I don't know who the Oilers have as a forward, because that's what the Penguins need to send back to Pittsburgh in return. So while maybe that opens up some cap space, maybe Kapanen for a trade or for a pick opens some cap space up for the Penguins, because even if they retain, let's say, half of his salary, that still opens up $2 million in change, two and change that you could put towards a forward. So maybe that's a thing, but I just don't see it, man. I don't see that really being a fit. And, I think it would be a a 100% an Edmonton Oilers type move for them to do something like that, to get a guy like Kapanen that they think has a lot of upside, and then he ends up flopping in Edmonton too. But I would be, I don't see anything else being more Edmonton than that.
Yeah, I think if the Pens were in need of like a third or fourth line center, they could maybe be trade partners if they were willing to ship out Derek Ryan, who's a bottom six guy that scored double-digit goals 2 of the last 3 seasons, and this year has 8. But the Penguins don't have the need for that. They're looking.
They don't need a bottom six guy. They need a scoring winger right now, man.
Yeah, does not fit the bill. So I don't see them as likely trade partners. So. Yep. It's kind of where I'm at with that. Like I said, it's going to be a Steelers heavy show. So that's all we got. We'll see if the Penguins have made a move by the next time that we talk. I'd love to get Danny back on here. Tyler will be back next week. So hopefully a lot more Pens talk for you guys. We're talking about the
hopefully Tyler doesn't have the travel luck that you have, and he'll be back next week.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he won't be back next week. If that's the, I don't know if he's using Delta or who he's with. Don't worry. Delta's not a sponsor of the show and never will be. When we come back, we're going to talk a lot about some Steelers football. This is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. All right, and welcome back to Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am Smitty. That is Eddie. I almost said Tyler, but I caught myself. Thank God. Eddie, we got to talk about the Steelers.
I don't know what to talk about, man.
I don't know which move to bring up first. I guess we'll start with the quarterback position, the most important position. We spent a lot of time last week creating the scenario where Mason Rudolph is the starting quarterback for this football team and how it still could work out okay if all the other pieces were in place. The Steelers, at the very least, have brought in, and we knew that they were going to bring in 1 or 2 other arms to compete with him. But this feels like, because of everything that we've heard prior to free agency starting, surrounding the name Mitchell Trubisky, that he is going to be the starting quarterback this year. With the way that it's being presented, I mean, there's been a lot of pub about his press conference. Don't get me wrong. I see a world where it is more of an open competition, but I feel like you're not.
I'll be honest with you.
I don't want to say open competition. I don't want to say that's not actually, because we had this conversation.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with Sarge, and I said the only way that I see it happening is like if Mitchell Trubisky literally loses the job, like does everything completely wrong. But it's not going to be an open competition. That was the wrong wording on my part. On
top of that, I want to say it was either Monday, maybe Tuesday, DK's Daily Shot of Steelers. He said flat out that, one of his sources inside the team said that it's not an open competition. This is not a QB battle. This is Mitch Trubisky's job. So, hey, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think that when I said Mason Rudolph was going to be the starter, I did not think that the Steelers were actually going to go out and get a quarterback. I didn't think they were going to spend money on a quarterback. I didn't think that they could get Mitch Trubisky at the number that they got Mitch Trubisky. That's the other big thing.
Yeah.
Unless the Steelers go to the Super Bowl and he ends up being, first team All-Pro, this is a really, really team-friendly contract.
The only thing that's fully guaranteed is a signing bonus. The $5 million signing bonus.
Exactly. So this isn't like you're paying this dude a ton of money. And that was my whole point last week, was don't do something where you're going to have to spend 10 to 15 million a year on a quarterback when you have all these other needs. And not to get into all of the other moves yet, because we're talking about Mitch, but this is exactly what they needed to do if they were going to get a quarterback. I just didn't think they'd be able to get Mitch at this number. I figured if it was going to be this kind of number, I figured it'd be a Jacoby Brissett or a Tyrod Taylor or somebody a little, a lesser quarterback. Like, I didn't think it would be Mitch Trubisky, who arguably, free agency wise, arguably the number 1 quarterback on the market. Arguably. I mean, you still got Jameis Winston, you still got Marcus Mariota, but he's definitely top 3, I would say, as far as the free agent quarterbacks go. Not talking about trades, which we'll probably get into.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And I think when you break it down even more for what the Steelers were looking for, Trubisky should have been at the top of that list.
He fits the offense perfectly.
Right. And so I think, everything that you're saying, I definitely agree with. And it's crazy because that number that we were creating in our heads was based off of, okay, this guy's going to have 5 to 7 suitors for a starting job, and then it really sounded like it came down to either Pittsburgh or going to compete with Daniel Jones for the starting job in New York.
But also he was pretty adamant that he wanted to come to Pittsburgh. Like, he was pretty excited about Mike Tomlin. He was pretty excited about the city. He was pretty excited about being Ben Roethlisberger's, next in line, the guy to replace Ben Roethlisberger, which, hey, I got to give him a dab on that. If you're that kind of competitor, then I'm kind of excited to have you, on my football team, because not everybody wants to fill the shoes of a, first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback that won 2 Super Bowls and pretty much was the man in the city. That's a hard task, and he's accepting it and he's embraced it, and I'm excited to see what he can do, man. I really am.
Yeah, I'm not trying to knock Mason, but I think that the difference there is, Mitchell Trubisky came in here, literally brought up Ben Roethlisberger's name and is talking about succeeding him, whereas like Mason Rudolph just calls him the Hall of Fame quarterback that was here.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And tries to make it seem like, okay, he's out of the way. Now I'm the guy, like up until when Trubisky came to town.
Trubisky's also from northeastern Ohio, so he had a relationship with Ben Roethlisberger prior to this. So, and I'm sure it was a better relationship than the one that Mason Rudolph and Ben had. Everybody knows that wasn't a great relationship. Yeah. I don't care who's at fault. It wasn't a great relationship. One other thing I do want to mention, though, last year at training camp, while I was there, one of the things that I noticed was, and I think I'm not saying anything that anyone didn't know. I mean, I think this was pretty common knowledge for anybody that went to one practice. So this isn't like an insider kind of thing. Like this was pretty apparent when Dwayne Haskins, Josh Dobbs, and Mason Rudolph were running the offense for the in camp. Yeah. It was a very different offense than the offense that Ben Roethlisberger was running. Mm-hmm. There was more play action when those three were running the offense. There was more motion when those three were running the offense. There was a lot more moving the pocket when those three were running the offense. A lot more creativity, I think, would be the word to use. I'm not using that as an excuse for Matt Canada and what we saw from the offense this past season. But I will say this. Mitch Trubisky is a better quarterback for a Matt Canada offense than an old Ben Roethlisberger. He can get out. Yeah. He can move the pocket. He can play out of the pocket. He can be that threat to run for 20 or 30 yards a game, maybe more sometimes. He's got a good arm. His arm is lively. It's not like he can't get the ball down the field. So, and he's not afraid. Like, I'm not saying Ben was afraid of play action, but everybody knows where the Steelers were when it came to play action offense the last 2 or 3 seasons. They were dead last, next to dead last, and I think like 28th or 29th. They didn't have a play action game in that offense. So now with a running back like Najee Harris and play action to go with that, I'm same thing I said with the Pirates. Cautiously optimistic about this offense and what it's going to look like going into this season, man.
Yeah, so I mean, I am literally, like, anybody that follows me on Twitter know the way that I've bashed Matt Canada.
I've been the same way, man. I've been the same way.
Yeah, but it's I'm not disagreeing though with anything that you're saying. So to me, like, the whole thing with him is, if you're an NFL offensive coordinator, I don't think that like you should have to have your specific personnel to make the offense work. At the same time,
I agree with that.
If that's going to be the case, if there's going to be an offense that is going to work for Matt Canada and be able to get something out of his offensive scheme, I think it's going to be the pieces that we're starting to see them put in place, not just with Trubisky, a mobile guy running the offense, but some of these other guys that we're going to bring up here in a second on the offensive line.
Yeah, and another thing to end the quarterback talk, I actually think that Dwayne Haskins is a better backup to Mitch than Mason Rudolph would be, because I think Dwayne Haskins plays when he's at. If Dwayne Haskins can play the game that we expect Dwayne Haskins to play, I think he's more like Mitch than Mason is. Mason I know he had a couple of plays where he got out of the pocket and against Detroit and made some things happen with his feet. But Mason's very much a pocket passer. Mason's very much, I wouldn't call him lead-footed, but he's very much like, he's going to sit there and he's going to try to throw the ball downfield and he's not going to move much. Where Dwayne Haskins isn't, I wouldn't call Dwayne Haskins mobile, but Dwayne Haskins can get out of the pocket and move around some. And so I actually wouldn't be shocked if Dwayne Haskins shows the Steelers that he can at least be competent enough to run the offense in preseason. I wouldn't be shocked to see Mason get traded or see him out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I know that, like, cautiously, we're throwing the word cautious around so much in this episode, but I know that, like, right now there's pause because it's like, man, would we really feel comfortable if Dwayne Haskins had to play in an NFL game right now? And season's not starting right now.
I'm not there yet. Yeah.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, and I also want to bring up, so say Haskins goes through training camp through the preseason and looks like he's the second best option. And like you're bringing up, like maybe dangle Mason out there to a QB needy team. Look at, they got a 5th round pick from Jacksonville for Josh Dobbs when they needed a quarterback after Nick Foles' injury.
Yep.
So I wouldn't rule out them being able to get something of value. I mean, a 5th round pick isn't nothing.
Yeah, that's going to open up a little bit more cap space for them if they need to do something due to injury. Like there's that does a lot of things for the team. Again, there's so many things that are going to happen between now and the draft, and then the draft and OTAs and minicamp, and then minicamp, training camp. Like there's so much. This is all speculation right now, but it is exciting to have an offseason like this where we're talking about a new quarterback. And like, don't get me wrong, we were spoiled with a Hall of Famer for 18 years, but it is exciting to see what they're going to do next. And, that's speaking of a couple new offensive linemen, which is what I'm excited about. That's got my, I'm an O-line guy. Miles Jack, Levi Wallace, James Daniels, Mason Cole. What do you think about the rest of the free agency guys that came in? Oh, and can't forget our main man with the John Deere hat, Gunnar Olszewski. Did I get that right? Something like that. I think
it's Olszewski.
Olszewski. Yeah, it's close enough. But my man is like he would fit right in McKeesport.
There you go.
Like he just looks like he came right off the bus from the Pat bus from McKeesport, went right to Heinz Field and said, "All right, sign me up."
Yeah. No, all pro at his
I know
job
that's
too.
it. Hey man. Hey, yeah. I'm excited to have a kick returner that was an all pro. No knock on Ray, but I'm excited to see somebody that might be able to break something in that. We haven't had that in a while.
Shout out to Ray though. I'm excited to see how San Fran uses him, and he's got the chance to earn some money up there.
Ray, exactly. Ray. I'm happy for him to get an opportunity. I'm happy to see James Washington get an opportunity. I think that I don't think that the Steelers used him wrong. I just think for whatever reason it didn't work for him in Pittsburgh. I think he has a high ceiling, and Dak Prescott's a great quarterback to go to if you have a high ceiling. They just traded Amari Cooper, so they have a need there. So I'm excited to see where these guys went. Also, if we're talking about receivers that are leaving Pittsburgh, we can't not talk about Juju. Doesn't seem like the Steelers showed much interest in him based on what Kansas City gave him in the contract. But it's a business. I get it, but I don't know.
He's honestly where he should have been last year.
Yeah, I don't know that there's many guys young guys that I respected the way I respected Juju. And I shouldn't say past tense. I respect Juju. Everything he did for this community, everything he did for the football team, how approachable he was, how funny he was, just all the times that he was at Children's Hospital, I think his rookie season, I overlapped with him at Children's Hospital when I worked there. And, he was there a lot, man. He was with, just always doing things in the community. Nothing but the best for Juju. I hope Kansas City works out for him. And I really hope that he does well there, gets all of his incentives, hits everything that he can other than the Super Bowl. But yeah, man, shout out to Juju though, man. Good luck in Kansas City, and we will definitely miss you in Pittsburgh.
Tough division to go to with all the action everybody's doing in the AFC West. But a lot of turnaround, like we talked about on this offensive line here. How can you not be, in my opinion, their best free agent signing? Even Miles Jack is like the splash one because he was the former number 1 rated linebacker of his class. Would have gone top 10 if he didn't have a knee issue coming out of UCLA.
I wanted him from UCLA bad that year too, man.
Yeah, but James Daniels, former Pro Bowler on the same team as Mitch Trubisky in
Yep.
Chicago. To me, this is the guy. This is the free agent of this class so far. We'll see if Tyrann Mathieu comes over. But James Daniels, to me, is really the foundational piece. He's a guy that you can build off of. He's still only 24 years old, but he's got 4 years worth of starts in Chicago. Can play both guard spots or center, so he's got that flexibility for you. This is like a foundational piece, in my opinion, for this offensive line. Going forward. Not just this year, obviously.
He's
3-year deal,
26.
but I think
he's 26, so it's not like he's old. I love it, dude. I honestly, I'm with you. And for me now, when you look at this offensive line, and I know everybody's tough on Chooks. Chooks is great. Chooks is a great pass blocker. He needs to work on his run blocking. But the thing with Chooks is he's such a big athletic dude that I think that he can figure it out. If he has the right coaching, I think he can figure it out. And let's be honest, as much as I like Adrian Clem, the person, he didn't really do much for this offensive line last season. So as far as coaching wise, I don't think. And so now you bring in the new offensive line coach and you give Chooks this money and you really empower him. I think that he's going to be better in the run game. We know what he is in the pass game. We know he's a good pass blocker. So now you have Chooks at tackle. You have James Daniels at guard. I would assume it's going to probably be Mason Cole at center, just based on what we saw from him on his tape the last 3 years. He played center the last 3 years, correct? In Minnesota, like for the most part, yeah.
He actually graded out better at guard, though, to be honest with you. I think that the thing with center is, well, he's a big center. So he's like contrast from Kendrick Green. He's 6'5". So I think the biggest thing with him is once he snaps the ball, getting in a good position.
Yeah.
He gets beat sometimes.
But I mean, he can't be, again, nothing personal against Kendrick Green. He was a rookie guard that they tried to move to center. He can't be worse than Kendrick Green. It was. So right. I mean, it's hard to be worse than that. So again, Chooks, Daniels, Cole. I assume maybe Dotson if Cole gets the start at line. Go ahead. You're saying something.
Here's the thing with this. Okay, everybody, I think, thinks like you see Daniels come in, you see Cole come in. Which, by the way, Cole's the one that's 26. James Daniels is only 24.
Oh, okay.
And real quick, I want to just bring up these guys' ages too. Dan Moore, 23, Kevin Dotson, 25, Mason Cole, 26, James Daniels, 24, Chooks is only 25, and he has all that experience already.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is, like, we know going back to last year that the fans are really the ones that are high on Kevin Dotson. The coaching staff clearly
never
does not
was
feel that same
way.
way.
They never were. No.
So I think everybody that's assuming that this move for Daniels and Cole kicks Kendrick Green to the side, I think that you need to start thinking about the possibility of it being Kevin Dotson on the hot seat and them willing to give Kendrick Green a second chance, whether that's at center or his more natural position at guard.
And I think that this training camp's going to be really interesting because we're going to see what a lot of these dudes are made out of. You're going to see now, Kevin Dotson's been, like you said, been put on notice. Kendrick Green has been put on notice. So now you get to see where's the competitive spirit of these guys. Are they competitors for real, or are they just going to roll over and let these guys take their jobs? So I don't think there is a bad way to look at any of these signings, man. I am so impressed with how the Steelers did it. And the biggest thing that I think with these, the most underrated big thing with these contracts is how team friendly they are.
Yeah, they're structuring a lot of them, and we'll talk about the others when we get to the corners as well, and Miles Jack, but they're structuring a lot of them as if it's like 1 year prove it deals, and then it's like we're either going to extend upon them, or if it doesn't work out, that's it. You're only here for 1 year. So yeah, I mean, Omar Khan gets a ton of praise.
Yes, he does.
For his job. Like,
dude, he is a wizard, man. He is a numbers wizard. That dude is, every year he amazes me with what he does.
Yeah, like so it's almost getting to the point where we can't say that he's an underrated piece for the front office because of how much that at least we bring him up.
Yeah.
But still, like, I don't think that he gets enough appreciation among like league circles for the work that he does.
Well, he's not a football guy, so that's the thing. Like you always see him get interviews, and it's just he's a numbers guy. That's what he is, and I think the Steelers the organization recognizes how important he is to the organization. So I don't think anyone's going to outbid them for Omar Khan. He'd have to go for a better job somewhere else, to leave Pittsburgh, because I don't think the organization is ever going to not pay that man. He is worth,
like you're saying,
he's worth everything that they give him, man.
Not being a football guy, what exactly is the ceiling of what he's hoping to achieve in this line of work? I don't know. I mean, he could easily be, the highest paid at his position. He might be right now. I honestly don't know. If he has aspirations of being a GM, I'm not so sure that that's going to happen in Pittsburgh, because I think that Pittsburgh is going to opt, and this is me just speculating, opt to go more of the scouting background when that hire is made. But I think, maybe we see him brought in as like an assistant GM, but still kind of just sticking to what his duties are, but just giving him that title and a pay raise, and really just, rewarding him for the work that he's done with the numbers. And so go ahead.
No, I finish up on Khan, because I have one before we go to break and talk defense. I got a question for you about the offense. I got one more question for you.
Okay.
Did you have anything else to say about Omar?
No,
because I kind of cut you off there. So, okay. So the last question, I'm going to jump back to quarterback.
Okay.
With everything that they've done, okay, do you see them looking at a quarterback in the first round, or do you think that they are going to treat Mitch as let's see what he is this year? Because if he's our guy, we don't need to draft a quarterback.
Right.
Or do you think that if they have a chance, let's say Malik Willis is available at 13 or 14. Let's just say like you get to the 13th, 14th pick of the draft, and Malik Willis is there.
Yeah.
Do they trade up to get Malik Willis, or do they say, you know what, we're going to give Mitch a year to prove it that he's our guy?
So the reason that I don't think that they do that, by the way, I think that people are thinking that like the Steelers are so and I'm not saying that they don't love Malik Willis. This is just the vibe that I get. I think the way that it seems like they're so enamored with him is because the Steelers finally, up to, signing Trubisky, and even after signing him, weren't looking for a quarterback up until right now. And then all of a sudden quarterback's on their radar, and he's like the first guy with this really high ceiling of the class, the first class that they need a quarterback. So I last year, who would have been that guy? Justin Fields, Trey Lance, like I don't know who that guy would have been. But I don't think that it's literally as there's as much smoke as people want there to be. I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen if he falls to 20. I just don't think I don't see the Steelers being aggressive in the position that they're in. I think that they took the free agency approach so that they could take the best available player at 20 without having to make that jump up. Honestly, like, as infatuated as people think that Tomlin has been with Malik Willis, I could make the same case, if not more, for a Jordan Davis out of Georgia, for a George Pickens. The way that he's talked about some of these other guys. Yeah.
I know they need a receiver now, man, but Jordan Davis is like that. That's my dream scenario, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe they continue. Free agency's not done. Maybe they continue to address it, and that is, where the route that they can go, and maybe even make them move up for him. We're talking about moving up for quarterback, but moving a couple spots. If he starts to slip a little bit. I even made an argument against myself for taking Jordan Davis, because I don't know how much he would get onto the field, just looking at the way that we've used traditional nose tackles and stuff in the past. But
well, why don't we take a break and then we'll talk defense?
Yeah,
because we've gone way back.
We can talk about the free agency signings as well. So let's take a break. Per Eddie Provident. When we come back, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the football with the free agents, potentially the draft as well. This is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. And welcome back to Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am Smitty. That is Eddie Provident. Let's talk about some defense with the Steelers. Your favorite side of the football, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the little bit of football I played linebacker and defensive tackle. Yeah, bounced around. So Jack Lambert was always my hero. So defense is my side of the football, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for Miles Jack is the one, man. Look, Levi Wallace is great. I think he's going to fit the system good. Getting Akilla Witherspoon back was huge for that secondary. And, I know they're going to make a move somehow, some way with it's safety. We can hope that it's Honey Badger, but whoever it is, like whether it's bringing Edmonds back, whether it's him, there's a few other guys out there. Dude, the one that's got me going is Miles Jack. And I think that's the one that's got most of the city going. It's exactly what this defense needed. I think he's exactly what they wanted Joe Schobert to be, just a better version of it.
Yeah. So like I said, I think James Daniels was their best free agent addition. I think Miles Jack was the best, like the most splash addition that they've made. Because the highest pedigree of the guys, like I said, he would have been a top 10 pick in the draft had he not had the knee issue coming out of UCLA.
And like I said, when his draft year, I wanted, when he fell to the second round, I wanted the Steelers to get him so bad. I know because of the knee injury, they didn't, but that was the dude that was the guy that I wanted to see them get. And so I'm happy to see him finally in Pittsburgh, man.
And he's still only 26. Again,
team-friendly
Omar Khan
deal.
Working his magic. It's only $4.5 million this year. And if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and it's 16 total, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for a starting middle linebacker that can be, a Pro Bowl type guy who's great in coverage, I'm taking that all day. Day, man.
You hope, like you said, I think that it's, again, another off-ball linebacker that you hope is what you thought you were getting last year when you acquired Joe Schobert. Yep. Now you get his Jacksonville teammate from a couple years ago in Miles Jack. But yeah, this has the feeling as soon as he was released, this was the one that I felt like, okay, this makes the most sense for the Steelers. We obviously need something in the middle of this defense. He had as many tackles last year as Minkah Fitzpatrick. So hopefully that means that we won't see guys getting to at least the third level if the defensive line doesn't. The defensive line is going to play better than it.
Yeah, let's be real about Minkah. I mean, I know Minkah. Everyone wants to talk about how Minkah didn't have the season that we're used to seeing Minkah have last year.
He was playing as a linebacker.
But, yeah, let's break down this defense a little bit. Okay, why were they terrible against the run? Why were they getting gashed in the running game? Because their defensive line was not what they expected it to be coming into the season. Tyson Alualu was out for the year. Stephon Tuitt never played. And you were basically cycling Chris Wormley, Carlos Davis, and Monty Adams.
Isaiah Loudermilk.
Oh yeah, Isaiah Loudermilk was in that fold too. So
it's a valiant effort, but
yeah, you're rotating guys who are new to the defense. Let's be real about that. They're new to the defensive scheme, and none of those guys are starters. Those guys, at least last year, I think Loudermilk has the chance to be a starter, but all of those guys realistically are guys that you're supposed to like bring in to spell your starters, to give them a breather. So you didn't have your starters on the defense, two of your starters on the defensive line. Cam Hayward had to had to basically be Superman on the defensive line. Look, TJ Watt, rightfully so, got all the shine this year on the Steelers defense. But if it wasn't for TJ Watt, I really believe that Cam Hayward would have been the team MVP and possibly would have had a little bit more of a running as an NFL Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he would have beaten out Aaron Donald or Micah Parsons, but I think he would have at least had his name in there if it wasn't for TJ Watt. I say that because of this. You've got the defensive line messed up and not playing well, okay? So that affects how your inside linebackers play. If your defensive line cannot hold blocks and stop the offensive lineman from getting to the second level, your inside linebackers are going to struggle. And I'm not blaming that for Devin Bush, but that has something to do with Devin Bush and Joe Schobert. Okay,
it's part of the equation.
It's part of the equation. And now you compound that with Devin Bush played bad. He was not the Devin Bush that we knew from his rookie season. Joe Schobert was a huge disappointment. He was not the guy that they thought that he was going to be when they signed him or when they traded for him in the preseason. So now you've got your inside linebackers underachieving. So now it goes to the next level. Minkah Fitzpatrick has to do everything. He's got to stay in the middle of the field. He's got to stay up closer to the box. He can't roam and be a ball hawk like we know him to be. So he wasn't getting the interceptions that he could. And then when you take a play like that Henry Ruggs play against the Raiders, that bomb that when Minkah, it looked like Minkah got burned. the reason why he wasn't back in coverage to help Ahkello Witherspoon, or no, it wasn't Witherspoon. Did Witherspoon get beat there? Yeah, Witherspoon got beat there. The reason why is because Minkah Fitzpatrick is so focused on stopping the run and helping out the linebackers and the defensive line that he can't get back, when a bomb goes, and to be that safety help sometimes. So I'm not saying all of Minkah Fitzpatrick's issues, but I would say 90% of the issues that we saw with Minkah Fitzpatrick last year were due to the defensive line and the inside linebackers not being what the Steelers expected them to be. And when that happens, that really messes things up for your safety, who's supposed to be the ball hawk, who's supposed to be the big-time playmaker. So now you get Myles Jack in there. You shore up the defensive line, hopefully by people getting healthy, and maybe in the draft, we talked about Jordan Davis at the break. Now you start to rebuild that middle of the heart of your defense. I think we're going to see a very, very different Minkah Fitzpatrick this year, man. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to be the one who gets all of he's going to benefit from this the most.
Yeah, when you have a good front seven, the biggest beneficiaries are going to be the guys in coverage. And I think that's why, they don't need to go out and spend. Listen, I was advocating for a J.C. Jackson. I would have loved him on the Steelers, by the way. But it lessens the need for a guy like that, for a guy that you can put on an island. Yeah. When you have the pass rush that we've seen the Steelers have year after year after year after year, and we expect to continue, especially with a guy coaching the outside linebackers and Brian Flores that loves to blitz as much as anybody in the league. So that's why you can get by with your two outside starting corners being a Levi Wallace and an Ahkello Witherspoon. Nothing against those guys, but they're a perfectly fine CB pair for what we expect the Steelers defense to look like.
But look at that.
They can get after the quarterback.
Exactly. And look at the 2009 defense, which was one of the best defenses that I've watched, for the Steelers. That 09 defense, again, I'm not saying Ike Taylor was a bad corner.
I love Ike Taylor.
By any stretch of the imagination. I think Ike Taylor was probably a top 10 corner for his time when he was in his prime, but it was Ike Taylor, Deshae Townsend, Chris Hope was back there, Willie Gay. These weren't world beaters. These guys weren't, top tier corners in the league, but they were good enough to hold guys in coverage just so that the pass rush, whether it was Joey Porter or James Harrison or whoever, was coming off the edge there, Lamar Woodley and those guys, they were good enough to give those guys time to get to the quarterback. And that's all we're asking. That's all the Steelers are asking Levi Wallace and Ahkello Witherspoon, Cam Sutton. That's all they're asking these guys to do. And I think we're going to see a lot more Trey Norwood this year.
Yeah.
I really liked what we saw from him his rookie season. So that's all they're asking. Just hold these guys so that TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and whoever else, just give them time to get to the quarterback. And that's all we're asking. That's all the Steelers will ask of the defensive backs this year.
Yeah, when we were talking about the offense, we didn't bring up the need for a backup running back, but they definitely need to add that somewhere as well. Mm-hmm. But I want to flip it around and say to that same point on the defensive side, we haven't really talked about a third edge rusher.
Yeah, they need to get somebody.
Find one of those at some point as well. And I don't know that there's somebody last year that you saw some glimpses from Taco Charlton, Derek Tuska, but I would like to see a little bit of an upgrade in that.
Yeah, same. I'd like to see somebody with a little bit more pedigree or somebody with a little bit more skill.
Well, it could have been Melvin Ingram.
Yeah.
But didn't buy in. But matching 2-year, $8 million deals for Witherspoon and for Wallace. And again, structured kind of like a 1-year deal. That second year, they'll either extend upon it, let it play out, or cut bait, just depending on what they do in year one. It's pretty much the same thing that they did last year with Cam Sutton's 2-year deal. They felt like, okay, he showed at least enough where we're going to bring him back on that second year of the deal, but not necessarily extend upon it, at least right now. Mm-hmm. So they're going to let him play out that final year, that 2-year deal. So I have no problem with these matching 2-year, $8 million deals. I like them a lot. I think that they are perfectly capable CB pair for this defense with the way that we expect them to apply pressure. Want to just talk about the inside of this defensive line, though, because we're putting a lot of faith in Tyson Alualu at his age coming back from it wasn't just an ankle fracture. There was ligament damage there too.
Yeah, it was
a lot of people thought he might hang them up due to that at his age and the injury that he had. Also, Stephon Tuitt, we keep hearing like there's optimism. He says he wants to play again. there's expectation of return to the team, but like no definitive answer yet. And with all respect to the situation, I completely get it. But at some point, this team needs to figure out what that answer is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily need to let the fans know what that decision is, but they need to know so they can address the draft. Because then again, I think that say they do add a safety, say they add some type of receiver. I was just advocating for Zach Pascal, by the way, 6'2", very similar to Juju Bill, plays in the slot, only 27 years old, plays special teams for Indy. I'd go on forever, but that would be my ideal wide receiver target at this point of free agency. All of a sudden, if they add those two pieces, I could 100% start pounding the table for Jordan Davis in round 1.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little bit more on the Jordan Davis train than you are because I don't really care if they get those other pieces. Yeah, I just want to see Jordan Davis in black and gold. I think that, I mean, look, when you look at the Steelers' defenses, right? They've always had that anchor on the defensive line, and again, they have Cam Hayward, so it's not like they don't have the anchor. But Cam Hayward's getting a little up there. I'd love to see Jordan Davis, and I think Jordan, like if you look back to Casey Hampton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Casey Hampton was that immovable object in the middle of the field. That opened up things for the inside linebackers. That what we were talking about earlier. That opened up things for the safeties. That allowed Troy Polamalu to roam more because of the trickle down effect that a guy like Casey Hampton provides. I think Jordan Davis has that size, but he also has a lot more athleticism than Casey Hampton. Remember the story about Casey Hampton couldn't run the 100-yard dash?
Yeah.
Jordan Davis just ran a 40 and 4.8 at 320, 340 pounds, something crazy. Yeah. So
6'6", 6'7".
That's absolutely insane to me. So I think getting that guy that can plug the middle up, but also has the athletic ability to rush the quarterback every once in a while too. He's not just going to be a plug in the middle. He's going to be more than that. I think that's a game changer for a defense. And so I'd really like to see them get him. That I know there's a lot of other needs, but I really would love to see that. I think is a long-term play for the Steelers that really solidifies that defensive line for the next, barring injury, barring anything catastrophic, really sets that defensive line up for a long time. So I'd like to see that, maybe a wide receiver in the second or third round, maybe who's there at offensive line, take a look at that. Depending on like you said, depending on what they do, there's a couple more needs, but I would like to see, Jordan Davis or, best player available, I guess. And then, a wide receiver in the second or third round. I like Sky Moore personally. I know he's a local guy, but I mean, he's out of the slot. He could really be dangerous. Runs a 4.3. He's got a lot of skill. Pitt fans know what Sky Moore can do.
You don't need to remind anybody.
I think that would be a pretty solid, and he has the relationship with Coach T. He was best friends with Dino Tomlin. They played at Shady Side Academy together. So I think that really could be a fit there.
Yeah, I think the way that I'm looking at it, now we keep talking about Jordan Davis, but even Tomlin acknowledged the likelihood of him getting to 20.
Yeah, that's true.
Very slim. So he's the ideal target, but again, I think it all goes back to the Steelers just addressing free agency like they always want to. If they have to play a game tomorrow, they feel like they have the roster to do so, and they're setting themselves up to take the best possible player at 20, not having to move up or down in the draft. And I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to stick to 20 and just take whoever the highest rated player is on their board. What position is that going to be? I don't know. But I will say, not arguing against myself, because I would be completely fine with Jordan Davis at 20, obviously. I think that there is much more value in doing that and then addressing wide receiver and say they still have to get a safety that could potentially start.
It's such a deep safety and wide receiver draft.
Yeah. Like Nick Cross out of Maryland, who I really like as a safety. I think he could still be around in round 3. And then if we're talking about going receiver in round 2, all of a sudden you get Jordan Davis. For the sake of this conversation, say it's Sky Moore, even though I don't know that he gets there. And then Nick Cross at 84. I think that you hit a home run in those first 3 rounds and you addressed everything that you needed to. So I don't know. I don't know what their plan is going to be. All I know is that this free agency leads me to believe they're just setting themselves up for BPA at 20, which is typically how they like to address.
And I'm fine with it. At the end of the day, I'm fine with that. And this team has proven time and time again, save for drafting corners, that whatever they do in the first round, I trust them. So, I mean, they've got my trust. And if this offseason has proven anything, they really went into this with a plan, and they've executed this plan perfectly so far. They've filled a lot of holes. They didn't use a lot of money to do it, and they still have some money left over, and they still have the draft left over. So, I mean, this is going to be a competitive football team. The AFC North,
competitive division.
Yeah, the AFC North is locked and loaded right now. I don't think there's a bad football team in this division, especially now with the Browns. Again, not getting into the off-field stuff, but them getting Deshaun Watson is a game changer for them at quarterback. Assuming he doesn't see a lot of time with a suspension. So yeah, this is going to be this division. I have no clue who's going to win this division. I honestly have no clue how this division can shake out. I could see any one of these four teams winning. I can see any one of these four teams being in fourth place because of a couple injuries. It is really up in the air for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, look at Baltimore was 8-3 last year before Lamar's injury.
Yeah,
so they're going to be right back there.
Who knows, man? Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It is. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Zadarius Smith, when he had agreed to that deal, he's since backed on the free agent market. But like when he signed with Baltimore, that's exactly what they were looking for was edge. Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, man, I kind of like, and this is before the Watson trade as well. And when Cleveland was actually rolled out before they decided, you know what? No, if Baker wants traded, that's fine. We're going to throw $50 million more guaranteed. We're going to rip up Watson's deal and give him $230 million fully guaranteed.
What do you think about that?
I think I don't want to have I don't want to have too much of a conversation about the off-field stuff. All I'll say is I think it's a terrible look to do so. He's making now $50 million more fully guaranteed than any other player in football. And with everything that's looming over that, I just think it's a horrendous look. From a football perspective, no first-round picks now for Cleveland in 3 straight years. And not just that, when you look at the cap as well, it's going to be hard to retain guys like, okay, Denzel Ward's a free agent after this year. It's going to be hard to build a football team around that, especially them taking on the full $20 million of Amari Cooper in the next 3 years. It's going to be interesting to see how Cleveland does it.
Yeah, it's a lot of money wrapped up in their offense.
I think they have one of the best GMs in football in Andrew Berry. I'm going to be interested to see how he continues to build this thing. They're going to have to get very creative, and they better win quick is what I will say.
And that's the thing that is scary if you're a Cleveland Browns fan is if Deshaun Watson sees.
I just realized I'm wearing orange.
Yeah. Gabby will be proud of you. But no, if they okay, so let's say Deshaun Watson gets the same suspension that Ben got, right? So 6 games and they get it down to 4. If they better win those 4 games, they better go 3-1 because if they are, if they go 2-2 or 1-3 and the rest of the division's like 3-1,
and they might have 2 division games in that,
they're going to be in trouble, man. Like I don't care if it's Deshaun Watson or who it is. Like they're going to be in trouble if they go down a game or 2 in this division. So they got to win quick, but they are going to be without Deshaun. And then they just traded Case Keenum.
Yeah. So they signed Jacoby Brissett.
Okay. So, but I mean, I guess, that's going to be a tough situation for Browns, man. I don't know what they're going to do.
You can go ahead and keep talking.
Yeah. It's a nice.
Not available for purchase, by the way.
Yeah.
No, but this is really good. This is really good.
Mine
good
isn't the same.
That's not you?
No. I'm a little slower than a jackrabbit.
No, really good Steelers talk. This was not, by the way, to support the Browns or
Cincinnati It's actually Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals, right? Denver Broncos. You're a Russell Wilson guy.
We're talking about the AFC North. The AFC West is going to be interesting too.
The AFC in general. Can the Steelers? Can they put a proposal in to be to move over to the NFC, trade spots with Washington?
Maybe we'll see.
It's gonna be something, man.
But great stuff, Eddie. I can't thank you enough for joining me again. Tyler will be back. He was, if you follow him on anything, it was honeymoon week for him after getting married last week. So he'll be back next week. All the best to him and Kennedy. I know that they were looking forward to a shout out. Oh, crap. You know what I forgot to do, actually, real quick. Tyler wanted me to let you guys know his thoughts on the Steelers free agency. He sent me a text. He spent time to take the
music. Should I put some music behind this or something?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. So this is going to be Tyler's thoughts on the free agency for the Steelers. Mitch Trubisky. Love it at the cost. Allows the Steelers to not worry about QB for at least this year. Okay. Miles Jack. Huge in all caps. Addition to linebacker and helps a definite need on defense. Levi Wallace. Another good get for a position of need on defense. Love the price point. Akella Witherspoon. Got re-signed. Thank goodness. I like that one. James Daniels, Mason Cole, addressing interior offensive line with some good signings, like both. Good moves. Daniels is the anchor of the offensive line for years to come. Wide receiver suddenly jumps up near the top of the priority list with the losses of Juju, Washington, and McLeod. We'll have to draft one in probably the first 2 to 3 rounds, if not more than one.
Okay. Written like Shakespeare.
All right, so Tyler will be back next week. We'll see if we can get Danny on here to talk about what the Pens did, if anything, at the trade deadline. Other than that, like I said, Eddie, can't thank you enough for joining us here on Around the 412. Everybody, we can't thank you enough for watching or listening. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. I don't know what you're doing because we got so many independent podcasts. We got the staff podcast. We got DK's Daily Shots. We got player interviews, coach interviews, all that good stuff.
The Ramon Foster Show, man.
I'm getting there. That's the highlight. That's the headliner of the entire network.
You said everything else, and I thought you just forgot it.
No. How could I forget Moan?
Ramon, he forgot you, man.
Oh my goodness. The Ramon, hey Moan with an exclamation point.
That's right. Hey Moan, why'd Zach forget you?
Hey Moan, send me some bourbon. But yeah, all that good stuff, and obviously so much more on this channel. You don't need to go anywhere else. Leave us a comment for anything throughout the show that you guys want to chime in on. We will see you guys next week. For Smitty, for Eddie Provident, this is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network.